Hey, Sharon Ann. Hey, Sandy. You guys are fast. How are you doing? Did you have a good week? Hey, Christy. Were you guys just over at that live chat that's going on right now? Hey, Lee. Hey, Sandy. There's a live chat going on right now. They claim there are 727 people taking part in the live chat. I took a look. That channel was created on May 5th of 2019. Which makes sense because by May 5th of 2019, the whole NK theory was already totally debunked. In fact, the whole NK theory was debunked in 2018. But oh my goodness, they're going on and on and on about the NK theory. They absolutely astonish me, actually, because they're saying that they have somehow enhanced the video, and they know for sure that it's a woman, that it's a female. And they're saying that they've been advised. I would say, how did they say it? Okay, this is kind of a convoluted way of explaining it, but the statements they're making seem kind of convoluted to me. They're saying that they've been advised by law enforcement to not show the part of the footage that clearly shows who the woman is. Huh? Sharon says, until there's proof, I still think NK is innocent. NK is innocent. And it was already discussed ad nauseum. And the entire NK theory was absolutely debunked in 2018. But evidently, a lot of these channels, which have been created, on the heels of the case of Christopher Watts, evidently that's what their content is all about, is promoting the NK theory, which was already debunked before they came along. But there were a couple of interesting points made, and I've heard the same claims made by other channel creators that they've had contact with one of the FBI agents. There's something that evidently these newer channel creators are not aware of, and that is that we were told before they came along, we were told that the certain FBI agent that they keep referencing or pretending that they have contact with we were told she retired a long time ago. She retired before they hopped on board. So they may not be aware of that we were told that she retired. So if she retired, and I'm guessing, wasn't it like in, March, April, somewhere in there of 2019, if she retired, then why are all of these channel creators acting as if they have contact with her? Why are all of these channel creators acting as if she's still evidently in charge? In fact, at that live chat, they're talking about how she's now the boss. Really? Because we were told she's retired. So how does that work exactly? And how on earth does it work that any channel creator would be able to have access to any FBI agent's cell phone number? Especially one who retired. Well, especially any one of them, retired or not. So let's dig in just a little bit. And I want to say this is not about any one channel. This is not about any one channel creator at all. Because this is what we're seeing over and over again from all of the other channel creators. They take their memo, evidently, and in my opinion, they read their scripts. And then they say, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. Oh, thank you for being here. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Oh, thank you so much. They sound like Meg Ryan in that movie where she ordered the apple pie about those super chats. And why is anybody posting super chats anyway? YouTube is free. So why is anybody posting what, $49.99? $99.99? What's really going on? Where is that money coming from, really? And where is that money going, really? Or are the super chats as authentic as the number of subscribers we're told taking part in any of their live chats? They're talking about how they tried to contact the Cardigan lady. And, they called her I would say the Cardigan lady like 3 times, 4 times, whatever. And then they called her by name and then said, oops, and then called her the Cardigan lady again. Like, come on. Is that in the script? They said that they tried to contact her, but she didn't respond. And then they said that they spoke with another agent only to find out later that the Cardigan lady is his boss. Boy, that's pretty interesting considering we were told she's retired. So they said they took it higher up than her. They took it over her. And one of them said way over her. Really? Where did they take it exactly? Oh, they claim they took it to the U.S. Attorney General. And then they said he's the boss. Which leads me to question how any of them would know who the boss even is, considering that all 3 of them taking part on that panel don't even live in the United States. So is that what they think happens if they're trying to reach a retired FBI agent who doesn't reply to them? That they should just rush off to the U.S. Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney General is going to care? Really? And it isn't just the U.S. Attorney General that they took their, I guess they're calling it evidence to. They're saying they took their evidence to other agencies too. They said to other sources. And then they changed it and said to other law enforcement agencies. Yes, Sandy, I agree. Sandy says, I'm sorry, but that is laughable and quite frankly, scary that so many people believe them. Think about it. All 3 of them are not United States citizens. And let's take a closer look at this evidence they're talking about, okay? And again, this isn't about any one channel because this is what all of them are pulling. There are many channel creators right now saying that they're in touch with a certain FBI agent who, I'll say it again, we were told, retired. So what they did evidently is they took a screenshot and they enhanced it. And one of their guests on the panel claims that he created software to enhance the screenshot. And evidently, his software did the trick because now they can clearly show that it was a female on that video, and they can even show who the female is. But again, they've been advised to not show that part of the video just yet. They're all pulling the same, I don't know what to call it, antics. They're pulling the same, what's the word? I don't even know. I thought this was interesting, and this is when I stopped listening and thought, let's do a live chat and talk about this. The host said, like I said, and I'm quoting here, like I said, with saying, do not publicize that part of the footage because you clearly see a person that can be named, but not at this stage, okay? So yeah, this is basically the story behind this. I think they're telling you very honestly at that point that this is all a story. I'm looking at my notes here because I want to quote actually, instead of just telling you what I heard them say. The host says, and also to add to that, everybody else, we have submitted our evidence, not only the footage, but also geotap phone data, the router, everything. They are all interested. They are all giving us advice, and they are all pushing this further now. What? Do you really think that any law enforcement agency in the United States is going to be giving advice, quote unquote, giving advice to 3 random strangers from the internet from all over the world? Really? The host continues. So Cardigan lady and her team, what team? I thought she retired. So Cardigan lady and her team, I must say, you had your chance. You wouldn't get back to us. So higher up people will take care of this now. Higher up people? Are you kidding me? And then one of the guests said, and we've gone around her and over her. And the host said, yes. And I also, and the guest said, way over you. And the host said, we have submitted our evidence to the U.S. Attorney General as well. And the guest said, the U.S. Attorney General, everybody, is pretty much the boss. And the host said, yeah. So we are still waiting. Obviously, they are very busy. But meanwhile, we have basically submitted to different sources, to different law enforcement agencies outside of Colorado. What? What are they doing on the internet? Like Googling for what other law enforcement agency might give a rat's ass? Are they kidding? And to submit something to the U.S. Attorney General, are you kidding me? Do they understand that the case of Christopher Watts is a state case? It is not a federal case. Do they understand that? Do they understand that long before any one of the 3 hopped on YouTube, that we were told that who they're disrespectfully referring to as the Cardigan lady, were told, well, she retired. Do they understand that long before any one of the 3 of them hopped on YouTube to discuss the case of Christopher Watts, that The entire NK theory was debunked. Debunked. NK had nothing at all to do with anything. She was doinking her coworker. And in my opinion, before she even started doinking her coworker, it was clear to everybody, many people, I should say, not everybody. It was clear already, in my opinion, at that point in time, before Christopher Watts and his coworkers started doinking, that his marriage was long over. There was a court hearing coming up. It was scheduled for shortly after the tragedy occurred. And in my opinion, it was that court hearing that led to the tragedy. I'm not saying the court hearing caused the tragedy, but I think whatever it was that happened in part because of the fear of what would transpire at the upcoming court hearing. I think by the time Christopher Watts started doinking his coworker, that he and his wife were already sleeping apart. And I think that's exactly why his own mother says that he questions how on earth his wife, could have gotten pregnant. I think that her bedroom was on the main floor. And I think there's a reason why Bella and Cece had locks on their doors. And I think that all of these channel creators lining up one after another, promoting this ridiculous NK theory, I think they were recruited in order to try to sway the conversation away from what many of us here in our live chat see as being obvious warning signs that poor little Bella and Cece were actually in danger long before the tragedy occurred. How many times do you drag babies to the emergency room before people say, "What the hell is going on?" How many times do you say that you're pregnant and that you're spotting and cramping and that you're not feeling well before other people say, "What the hell is going on?" How many times do you look right into the camera and say that you've just given 2 small children lots of Tylenol before people say, "What the hell is going on?" Don't you think people kind of wondered why on earth both children were in daycare full time? Don't you think people kind of wondered why on earth Christopher Watts looked and acted, sometimes almost frightened, of his own wife? Don't you think it's odd that evidently so many people saw those videos, the same ones that we saw, and nobody demanded that Bella and Cece be removed from that home? Don't you think it's kind of odd that so many people are singing the Kumbaya song about the MLMs that Christopher Watts' wife signed up for? Oh, she was successful. Really? Oh, she earned her car. Really? Oh, she was a stay-at-home mom. Really? She stayed at home while her husband worked, and then when he got out of work, he's the one who dropped his work truck off at the house, picked up the car that he was paying for, that his name was on the lease for, the one she earned. The car that was in his name, the lease paperwork anyway, they didn't even own one car. Highly successful? Right. And he'd hop in the car that he was on the hook for, and he would drive then, after working all day while his wife sat on her tush all day at home. he would hop in the car and drive up to the daycare center and pick up the girls. Don't you think that's kind of odd? I mean, I don't think it's odd if the daycare center was on his way home from work, whatever. Okay, even then, I would think that she would want to do something in her day besides sit on social media. But what if she was supposed to sit on social media? What if that was part of the family plan? What if that was part of how people could keep an eye on her and make sure that her moods were somehow under control? What if that was her bedroom on the main floor? What if that room did have a lock on it? What if it was wired for security cameras? What if when Christopher Watts said she wasn't supposed to be there, he was actually referring to his wife? Maybe the reason Christopher Watts didn't typically pull into the driveway with his truck was because that little bedroom on the main floor was right next to the front of the house. Interesting. What do you guys think? Could it be that when she was pregnant with Bella, that she started to present with some pretty serious symptoms? Oh, I don't know, about around the 32-week mark of the pregnancy? Because up until then, she was blogging at a regular clip, and then all of a sudden she stopped blogging about the pregnancy. She didn't say one more thing at all about the pregnancy after her 32-week mark. Could it be that she had some sort of a mental breakdown when she was 32 weeks along? And if so, could it be that Christopher Watts was basically in survival mode from that point forward? Could it be that he planned on divorcing her right there and then? Or could it be that he felt obligated somehow to stay with her, in sickness and in health and all that, right? Could it be that he felt that he wasn't able to leave until the baby was a little bit older? Could it be that he believed his wife if she told him that she was nursing the baby? Could it be that they had caregivers right from the start? Could it be that when she posted about going to the hospital in Indianapolis in the spring of 2016, that she was actually in some sort of an outpatient program for intensive care? And I'm not talking for any physical health challenge, because I agree with their close friend who said in an interview that he did not believe that any of her health challenges were physical. Could it be that Christopher Watts actually hoped that maybe that program, whatever program it was, and again, for people who say that she was never in Indianapolis, then the question begs, why did she act as if she was for over a month straight, if she wasn't? Could it be that Christopher Watts thought, oh, good, hopefully she'll get the help she needs and everything will be okay and the kids will be safe? And could it be then that from that point forward, that both children were being medically abused by their mother with, quote unquote, health challenges? Could it be by that point, by 2016, that Christopher Watts was just flat out exhausted from dealing with the ups and downs of being married to somebody with, quote unquote, health challenges? Could it be that by the time both girls were admitted to the hospital in December of 2016, that there were already suspicions of Munchausen by proxy? Could it be that all those photos that Christopher Watts' wife posted on social media concerned many, professionals and law enforcement and people in the medical profession too, of course. Could it be that when both girls were admitted to the hospital in December of 2016, that the medical professionals may have been already on alert? Could it be that the close friend, the close friend who she barely knew, but boy, the close friend was worth firing the sister-in-law from the bridal party, right? Because she wanted her close friend to be her attendant. She didn't even know her. She babysat for her for what, 2 or 3 months for one kid? That's what we're told. What if that close friend was actually a caregiver? What if she didn't babysit for her at all? Well, could it be that quote unquote close friend was in place actually to kind of keep an eye on things, to observe, to study, to monitor? Could it be that before the girls were released from the hospital that certain tests were done and that certain evidence was found that necessitated swift action to protect the children? Could it be that that's why both girls were then placed in daycare full time? Could that be why Christopher Watts was the one who drove home from work, hopped in the car that he was leasing in his own name, even though the story goes that his wife earned it, right? Could that be why he was the one picking the girls up from daycare? And could that be why there were people the morning of the tragedy already on high alert when they didn't know where Christopher Watts' wife was? Or I should say, when they claimed they didn't know where Christopher Watts' wife was. Could it be that they were caregivers who were actually in place to take the girls to daycare in the morning? Could it be true what all the people are saying on social media? That his wife wasn't allowed to drive the girls anywhere at all? Could it be that it's true what all the people on social media are saying, that she wasn't allowed to travel with the girls on her own? Could it be? So here we are 3 years later, 3 years after the tragedy, and we have one channel after another claiming that they believe and they have evidence that there was a woman in the driveway that morning, because they know how to do video enhancement and they know how to talk about pixels. I thought that was part of their live chat was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Could that be why there are so many channel creators, it seems, in place to harass others who have actually been discussing the case? Could that be why, nearly 3 years after the NK theory has been debunked, that so many channel creators are still singing that tune? Could it be there are people who are very concerned at the thought of anybody discussing the possibility that Christopher Watts' wife may have slept in that main floor little bedroom that she called her office? Could it be that there are certain people who are concerned because there are so many of us discussing whether or not there were security cameras throughout the house? And if so, where's the footage? Where's the footage? Come on. And where's the explanation, one that makes sense anyway, for why any house would have so many locks on the interior doors? What's really going on with the case of Christopher Watts? How dangerous was that home leading up to the tragedy for Bella and Cece? And why weren't Bella and Cece swiftly removed from the home if in fact what we're being told is true about medical abuse? Why were they still in the home? If there were caregivers in place to monitor any time at all that the kids were near her, then could it be that the caregivers weren't there or alert or present when they were supposed to be? Could it be when Christopher Watts left for work that morning, he had no clue that there would soon be anything wrong or any tragedy happening? Could that be? Could it be when he drove out of that driveway that he didn't have a clue what was about to happen? Or had something already happened that he wasn't aware of? Could it be that he worked all day without a clue until all of a sudden the weird phone calls started telling him, okay, these are his wife's MLM friends who, for some odd reason, even have his phone number to begin with, calling him at work, telling him to get home. I'm thinking my ex-husband probably would have told them to go to hell, right? Think about it, whether you're male or female. If you received a phone call at work from one of your spouse's buddies telling you to leave work immediately, what would your reaction be? You'd be like, why are you calling me? Like, this is weird. Take a Xanax and call your doctor. Or could it be that he was actually receiving phone calls from caregivers? Could it be that he was actually aware of some sort of a family plan? Could it be that the phone calls were actually to tell him that his children's lives may be in danger? And could it be that when he gave his porch interview, that he actually was as clueless as he seemed? Ray says, yeah, how come they had his number? She even said she wasn't his friend. You know, it isn't like they could Google his name and come up with his cell phone number. That isn't how cell phone numbers work. How did they even have his phone number? And how dare anybody call up some guy at work and say, hey, get home. Come home right now. Sandy says, why was NC NC? Who is NC? I'll continue with your comment as soon as you tell me who the heck NC is. Oh, Sandy's laughing now. Sorry, not NC. Oops. NA. Okay, got it. Because I'm going like, what? Oh no, another new twist in the case of Christopher Watts. Who the heck is NC? Okay, here we go. Sandy says, why was NA so scared and worried that SW wasn't answering the phone or the door? My friend wouldn't lose their mind if I don't answer for a few hours, especially if I had an appointment. That's the $1 million question. Why would anybody have been concerned at all? Christy says, my partner just said he likes your logic, MM. Thanks, partner. Spacebound says, demanding him to get home? Whatever. Exactly. There's no way in hell that my husband would have ever said, oh, well, she told me she was going on a play date with her other two daughters, or however that went, right? But yeah, you're right. I'm just going to pack up the job site here and I'm just going to hop in my truck and I'm just going to rush home because a couple of almost strangers in my world are calling me in the middle of my workday to tell me to get my ass home. I don't think so. I think he would have said something along the lines of, like I said already, take a Xanax, call your doctor. Christopher Watts? Well, he did what he was told, evidently. Right? But was he doing what he was told because one of his wife's buddies called him up and told him to head home? Or was he doing what he was told because he had a series of caregivers for his wife calling him and telling him that the children were missing? Exactly, Paul. The people complaining that he took 45 minutes to get home. Oh, where did your comment go? There it is. He took 45 minutes to get back. Big deal. Exactly. I agree with you. And I think that the people complaining about the fact that he took 45 minutes to get to the house, well, my opinion, they probably don't know much about the word work. Would you or your spouse ever be told what to do by either a casual or a social media or an MLMer or whatever kind of a friend of your spouse? No. You'd be calling your spouse going, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? And I've got news for you, law enforcement. They're not going to give two rats' ass about somebody's friend saying, oh my gosh, she wasn't on Facebook. So I went to her doctor's office and they told me that she missed her appointment. Law enforcement would be saying, have you spoken with her husband? Law enforcement would be saying that her husband needs to call if he's concerned. And this whole idea that she was diabetic, does that piss anybody off? It should. It should. You know, there are shiners out there saying that they only said she was diabetic so that the police would take it seriously. What? So are the shiners saying it's okay to lie to law enforcement? Because that's what it sounds like. She was diabetic because somebody at the party over the weekend in Arizona said she was? Oh, is that how diabetes is diagnosed nowadays? And remember, she was claiming she was pregnant. She was claiming she was 15 weeks along. Yet she failed to see the doctor. Does that piss anybody off? Does anybody here care? And I say here meaning anybody discussing the case of Christopher Watts. Does anybody care about the absolute disregard for the safety of the unborn? If you have a friend who's going 15 weeks without any prenatal care, and she claims that she's spotting and cramping and she still refuses to go in for any kind of prenatal care, well, just a hint, choose better friends. So you're the receptionist at the doctor's office and you have somebody coming in the front door saying, hi, did my friend make it to her appointment? Oh, well, let me go ahead and violate HIPAA. What's your friend's date of birth? Let me look it up. Let's see. How do you spell her name? Sure, whoever you are. Let's look that up for you. let's go ahead and violate HIPAA because I can tell you're worried, right? Do you think any medical office staff is going to risk losing their job because somebody came walking in the door saying they wanted to have them violate HIPAA? Oh, wait a minute, though. What if the person walking through the door had paperwork with her that showed that she had access to medical information, that showed perhaps, and I'm just saying, what if she had paperwork that showed that she was an actual caregiver of the patient in question? Paul said she didn't even know the date of birth. She had no clue how old Christopher Watt's wife was. No clue at all. She said, I don't know, in her 20s or 30s. In her 20s. Yeah, she's in her 20s. When she actually looks like she was in her 40s. There's no way you would guess that Christopher Watt's wife was in her 20s. No way. She didn't have a clue. And if she was her best friend, why wasn't she at her wedding? I mean, everyone makes such a big hullabaloo about Cindy Watts not being at the wedding, right? Well, why did she get married during her 6-week break? I mean, her 6-week vacation. I mean, her 6 weeks off from work. I mean, well, whatever it was, that 6-week time frame in the summer when she didn't have daily contact with Christopher Watt's wife. Could it be that was her 6-week break over the summer while her patient, I'm just saying, could it be? While her patient was staying with family members out east? Could it be that she put in a request to have 6 weeks off? Just saying, could it be that she said to her employer, hey, I'm getting married this summer and I really need a break because this isn't working out for me. The stress is way too high. Could it be that's why the sudden 6-week routine occurred? And didn't her dad fly out and then fly back with her and the kids? And didn't it sound like he was kind of unaware at the time that it was going to be for 6 weeks? But I wonder if maybe the caregiver, I mean, the friend, already knew that it was a 6-week vacation. Is that why she had her wedding in the middle of the summer while her, quote unquote, best friend was away? I wonder. I also wonder this. I've spent a long time saying that while Christopher Watt's wife was in North Carolina, he should have been in to see a lawyer. He should have been selling that house. He should have been moving his stuff and the kids' stuff to wherever he was moving to. And she should have been served with papers. And those kids should have been taken into his custody, right? I've been saying that for a long time. Instead, he spent the summer doinking his coworker. Well, could it be that he was actually told that at the upcoming court hearing, the one that we were told by a family member was for a family matter, an ongoing family matter? Could it be that he was told that at that court hearing that he would gain custody of the children? Could it be that he was actually even planning on staying at the house? Could it be that it wasn't Christopher Watts who would have been leaving? Could it be that that court hearing was actually going to facilitate the transition for the, family, subject to what we're told was a family plan? Could it be that his nightmare was almost over? And yet, an even more tragic nightmare had just begun. There's one thing that really, well, many things, but there's one thing that stands out with this case discussion, and that is that her own father said that she came home and confronted him about that restaurant receipt. She came home and confronted him, and he said that he was told this by others, and he said that Nikki was there. Nikki was there. She came home and confronted him. And he knows that information because he was told that by others. And then when pressed further, he said Nikki was there. Could it be that Nikki was supposed to be there? Could it be that Nikki was there when Christopher Watt's wife confronted him? Could it be that she maybe went downstairs and went to sleep? I don't know. Because according to Christopher Watt's father-in-law, it sure sounds pretty clear that Nikki was there. Could it be? Could it be that Christopher Watts was basically just putting in his time until that court hearing, that he thought his children were safe, that he thought she was being properly supervised, and he drove out of the driveway not knowing that life as he knew it and life as he hoped it would soon be in the future would never be. Watch any one of the videos and you'll see a father who takes care of his children. You'll see a father who is feeding his children and clothing his children and playing with his children and getting drinks for his children when they're thirsty. You'll see the children lean toward their father. You don't see the same dynamic when they're near their mother. You don't see her getting them drinks or feeding them. Oh, you want a laptop? When poor little Bella was hungry, and, total strangers like us can clearly hear Bella say that she was hungry, right? That she wanted food, but not her own mother. No. Her own mother said, oh, you want a laptop? Well, what do we do when we want something? We put it on the vision board. Yeah. Okay. Star Mama says, I still think CW is being threatened by the R's in some way. Plus, he feels guilty he didn't save his girls. He loved his girls, no doubt in my mind. You can look at any one of the videos and you see a man who truly loved his children. You don't see a man who has any rage issues or abusive tendencies in any of those videos. There's no evidence whatsoever in any of the videos that Christopher Watts has any sort of rage buried deep inside that he's about ready to explode or whatever. Dominica sounds like he or she is out on the prowl. Oh, Christy, are you going in for that second round? Remember, vitamin D. Lots of liquids. Lots of good sleep. Yes, Ray says, you'll be okay, Christy. It'll be okay, Christy. Take care of you. Get lots of good sleep if you can. Oh my goodness, Ray. Here you go, Christy. Ray is telling you to have lots of Tylenol. Star Mama says, stay safe, Christy. You know, part of my, what would I call it? Animosity, I guess, toward the way Christopher Watts spent his summer, when he clearly, in my opinion, should have been taking steps to protect his children instead of doinking his coworker. Well, maybe he actually had taken whatever steps he could take up to that point. Maybe he was advised. Maybe he was instructed to wait until that court hearing. Maybe he was told that the court hearing would take care of it all. And maybe when he told his mother that he was choosing to take responsibility for what happened, maybe that was exactly the truth, that he was making the conscious choice to go ahead and take responsibility for whatever it was that happened, to basically bring a close to it all. Maybe he actually wants the secrets of his marriage to be kept hidden. Or maybe Star Mama's right. Maybe he's just living in fear that he's not able to talk. Maybe he's fearful for his own family, his mom and dad, for their safety. Maybe he's fearful for his sister and her family's safety. I don't know. Maybe he thinks by being quiet that he's somehow protecting his family. Could it be, like I said, could it be that when he drove out of that driveway that morning, that his wife and children were all alive? Could it be that he was framed perfectly and then convinced by whoever framed him that nobody would believe a word he said? Could it be that all the people attacking us through the last 3 years are actually very few people with multiple fake profiles, hoping that they can frighten us, maybe in much the same way that Christopher Watts might be sitting there frightened himself? Keep your mouth shut. It's none of your business. The case is closed. Could it be that we've been right from the start, all along? That Christopher Watts may have actually been telling the truth when he said he did not murder his children, Bella and Cece Watts? Could it be that in 10 years or so, Christopher Watts will be getting a trial? And then maybe they'll offer him the Alford plea, and he'll walk out the doors of that prison? Could it be that at some point along the way that somebody who knows something is going to come forward? Could it be they already have? Could it be that two of the people involved with, and I'm just saying, if there is any sort of, funny business going on, that two people involved are already squealing on each other? Could it be that one has a really good story to tell and the other one is getting tripped up trying to keep the secrets? I wonder who is going to tell first. Or I wonder if maybe they have already told what they know. Hmm. Trust is a tough thing, I'm sure, if there are people involved with anything that could send a lot of people away for life. It must be kind of hard to trust someone if, what I'm saying. But you almost have to, right? Until you don't. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think if somebody is involved with any kind of funny business, that it might be smart to be the one telling the truth first. You know what I mean? That if they know something, no matter how nasty, no matter their involvement, that they might be smart to be the first one to spill the beans. And maybe even to try to negotiate some sort of, immunity package from prosecution for themselves. I'm just saying. I think whoever spills the beans first might actually be even more believable than anybody else who might still be keeping the secrets. Because remember, we'll never know the truth, right? That's what we're told. Because supposedly, we'll never know the truth because law enforcement doesn't tell people like us. Huh? So if we're being told that we'll never know the truth, then that means, logically speaking, logic would dictate that if we'll never know the truth, that's what we're being told, that means we're being lied to. To which we respond by saying, why? Why is anybody lying about anything? Right? If there's nothing to hide. I don't know. What do you guys think? Star Mama says NA and her son knew a lot of details, if you ask me. I think there are probably a lot of details that they could maybe add to the discussion. I'm curious if NA was actually a caregiver. I'm curious why in her phone, or was it her son's phone, that Christopher Watt's wife's phone number was, we're told by that Lana person, I think it was, maybe it was that KK person, I'm not sure, but we were told that in the phone, that Christopher Watt's wife's phone number was listed as mom's work. So was Christopher Watt's wife a patient of a caregiver? Mama Five Boys says, and her asking if she was going to be arrested. That bothers me. Why would she have asked if she was going to be arrested? What would she have been arrested for? Which just, reminds me of something. That BAC .128, do you guys believe that that's from decomposition? I don't know. .128? That sounds drunk to me. Star Mama, you and I think alike. I was just going to say, do you guys think that Christopher Watt's wife was an alcoholic? Star Mama said, I think SW had a lot of issues, including drinking. I think she was a heavy drinker. I think that's one of the secrets of the case that we're not supposed to notice. Ashnami says, when the R's went back to North Carolina, Sandy asked NA to look after SW. I think Sandy was paying her to babysit SW. I don't think Sandy was paying anybody. I think that Christopher Watt's wife was on disability, and I think there was money available through disability to pay for caregivers. Carol says, I'd hope Chris would really sit down and tell his story. He said he wanted a 2-bedroom apartment for him and the girls. He was looking forward to being divorced. She drove CW into bankruptcy. Would have been the second time. They wouldn't have been allowed to file another bankruptcy either. You can't do it that soon. They were screwed financially. But at the upcoming court hearing, if they were restricting Christopher Watt's wife's access to his finances and the children, Christopher Watts would have been fine because he actually knew how to work. Star Mama makes a good point. She thinks that's why her dad had a call with CW every night to see how she was doing. I think we were told that he called every night to talk to CW to check on the girls. Okay? Now, to me, that seems interesting. I don't know anybody who gets a call from one of their in-laws every single night to check on the children. But maybe there was a call every single night to see if Christopher Watt's wife had an uneventful day. Dolo says, I never believed the BAC. Ray says bankrupt over toys. And quite frankly, Ray, they didn't even have any toys. They were in their 30s, nearly their mid-30s, and they didn't even have a car. They didn't have any toys. His little home workout place was a joke. They didn't have any toys at all. I think what they had was a wife who was claiming she was working and she wasn't. I think that's what they had. Star Mama says, remember Sandy said check the knives. Why would anybody say check the knives? And check the knives for what? Do any of your friends know how many knives you have in your house? Check the knives for what? Count them? See if there's anything weird on them? Did they have just so many knives? Did they have just like the knife block on the counter and she was supposed to check to see if there were any knives missing? Check the knives for what? Spacebound says very odd. It is very odd. But if you look at it within the context of the fact that Christopher Watt's wife stopped blogging at 32 weeks along in her first pregnancy, or her pregnancy at least in the marriage, her first pregnancy within the marriage, She stopped abruptly. She didn't blog again. So what happened? Did she have a mental breakdown? And then look at her own posts for the springtime of 2016. And then listen to what people are saying about the 2016 in December, the hospital stay of both girls. And then poof, both girls are put in daycare full time. And then poof, she stops making the house payments. Really? I'll tell you what I think. I think that main floor room was her bedroom. I think she had caregivers. I think Christopher Watts was exhausted from working all day and having to put up with his wife all night. And I think the reason those girls were put to bed at 6:30 was a direct result of mental illness within the home. And here's the thing, you guys. Nobody is blaming, shaming, whatever for anybody if they needed help and they needed to reach out for help. But why, after the tragedy occurred, after 2 children were murdered in what should have been the safety of their own home by one of their parents, why doesn't society care enough to stand up to that and say, what the hell happened? We want to know what the hell happened, and we want to learn whatever we can so that we can promote awareness for other families who are suffering. If it's true that her health challenges were not physical, and if it's true that she actually was on disability, and if it's true that there actually was a family plan in place, and if it's true that that court hearing was for an ongoing family matter, and if it's true that she wasn't allowed to be alone with her own children, then, in my opinion, it's true that poor little Bella and Cece should have been removed from that home for their own safety, and to hell with the false narrative. To hell with it. Bella and Cece were murdered, and that should trump all other parts of the discussion. We should care first and foremost about the fact that 2 little girls were murdered by one of their parents in what should have been the safety of their own home. Instead, it seems that we're supposed to care about how successful Christopher Watts' wife was, even though she wasn't. How inspirational she was, even though she wasn't. How beautiful she was, even though she wasn't. She was mocking a fellow student in the program she claimed was a nursing program, which I highly doubt was a nursing program. I think it was probably a remedial reading or writing class, quite frankly. She was mocking a fellow student. She mocked her husband. She mocked her children. She had some videos she was acting like she was higher than a kite. She had other videos she acted like she couldn't even remember her own name. She had videos where she had no clue what her daughter had just been diagnosed with the night before in the emergency room. And she had videos where she was, in my opinion, absolutely abusing poor little Bella. And she posted them right online. She posted photos of poor little Bella trying to stick toys up her rear. She posted photos of those poor little girls with blankets and pillows over their faces while they slept. She posted photos of poor little Cece falling down the stairs head first. Hold on, Cece. Hold on, Cece. Time for a photo. She posted videos of poor little Cece hanging on the counter crying and scared while she stood there smirking behind the doorway, beyond the doorway, smirking. I don't know, maybe she wasn't allowed to go into the room. You ever think of that? Maybe that's why she didn't rush right in. Maybe she wasn't allowed to. Star Mama says Junior's raised 30,000. Now he's going for 45. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. That comment reminds me of something, Star Mama. There's a channel creator who is, I guess, standing in defense of another channel creator who everyone's trying to attack. And he's telling people that if they've donated $500 or more, then they can blah, blah, blah. I don't think you have to have donated $500 or more in order to speak up. Just saying. I think it's interesting that with the case discussion of Christopher Watts, with this discussion for 3 years, we're talking, that there's so much misinformation out there. You know, look at what I was talking about earlier in this live chat. They're saying that they contacted the U.S. Attorney General with the information, with the new evidence they have, because evidently they, created software to enhance a video, right? Sure, okay. And they decided to go ahead and go above, way above, right? Way above the retired agents had, who, I guess because they're offended she didn't reply to them. Well, guess what? She's retired, we're told. So they went to the U.S. Attorney General. Really? Do you really think the U.S. Attorney General is going to be conversing with 3 people from 3 other countries about a state case? Do you think the U.S. Attorney General is going to be conversing about any state case? Seriously? It isn't a federal case. We've heard so many times where people are giving advice. That 35C routine was hilarious. The channel creators created so much false information and spread it like wildfire. Oh, well, his only chance is a 35C. Bullshit. That isn't his only chance. Oh, a 35C will get him a new trial. Bullshit. That isn't how it works. And if you dare to say, hey, guys, this isn't how it works, why don't you leave the legal explanations to people who know? Oh, watch out. And you want to know what their fallback is? That they may not know, but they know people who do know. KK, when people said, hey, what are your credentials? She said she doesn't need to have credentials because she knows people who actually do. And then look at that Lana Banana. Oh, she's helped the Watts family more than anybody else. Really? She's helped them? She's helped them do what? Waste time? Waste money? Waste energy? What has she done? And did she ever get that nonprofit up and running? Because she sure has been saying for quite a while that she has a nonprofit. And I don't know, just saying, I think if you're going to say you have a nonprofit, then you better have a nonprofit. Carol says if she was on disability, there's a chance the girls could have been getting a check. And there's also a chance that that's exactly why she was trying so hard to get the girls both diagnosed with familial Mediterranean fever. Hey, Mrs. Fluffer. Mrs. Fluffer says a stranger on Facebook could have reported to SW. Well, okay, let's back up. What if when Christopher Watts met his future wife back in August of 2010, what if she was already on disability at that point? What if she already had caregivers? What if her health challenges were not physical at all? Hi, Happy Angie. What if she was already on disability? What if she somehow got that house on some sort of program, to help people have a home? What if she was already on disability and she met her new beau and she said, "Oh, I have lupus, I have fibromyalgia. I'm such a tough cookie because I make it look like I don't, but I really do. And I'm in pain all the time, even though I don't look like it or act like it. And my serious diseases go in remission when I snap my fingers if there's something fun to do." Well, what if? What if he didn't realize that she was on disability? What if he believed that she was actually babysitting someone's kid? What if he didn't know? What if she never babysat anybody's kid? What if the contact on care.com was actually to find a caregiver for her? What if she was supposed to go there on a regular basis to be supervised? I don't know. Just saying, I don't know. What if she was part of some sort of research? What if she was an advocate maybe for Christopher Watts' wife? I don't know. What if? And then kaboom, the doctor said she has to move to Colorado. And Christopher Watts believed it. And she got him to buy the next house. And you know what? In my opinion, he was already paying for the first one too. Because she quit her job, remember, just a few weeks after she met him. If she even had the job to begin with. What if? What if she was on disability the whole time? And what if right after they got married, when she got pregnant with Bella, Miss Fertility issues and all, what if during her pregnancy her issues became clear to Christopher Watts? And what if what followed was nothing but a nightmare for him and for his family from that point forward? What if? What if people were moving in all the time to take care of her? Or at least to supervise her if the children were in the house? What if? What if signing up for MLMs was just one way to keep her busy, on social media, harassing people? What if claiming she had lupus helped her promote all of her caffeine-coated Band-Aids to people who actually did? Or what if she thought it would, but it never really panned out for her? Because obviously, if she did ever make any money at any MLM, well, what a joke. Come on. Because you're not making money if you're spending money in order to make it. You see what I'm saying? If you've got to spend 20 grand on product in order to make $4,000 in return. You didn't make $4,000. You lost 16 grand. Maybe she's just, a math challenged ninny who had mental issues, who didn't have the ability to separate her fantasy from the truth. Maybe her caregivers actually preferred that she sign up for a bunch of ridiculous MLMs because maybe that did kind of keep her busy and out of their way. Don't you think it's interesting that their support seems to be coming from people from outside of the United States? The whole shine like Christopher Watt's wife routine, right? Don't you think that's interesting? Brittany says, I feel like there are a lot of narcissists that force others on camera 24/7, like ask permission first, please. Well, if she was on disability for mental health issues, maybe everyone just kind of tolerated her. Like Cindy Watts said, they walked on eggshells so they wouldn't upset her. Why? How upset did she get? If people around her weren't so focused on being careful what they said around her. Carol says that she was jealous of Christopher Watt's family, and I think that's very true. I think she wanted to belong to Christopher Watt's family, but I think that she, at the same time, had no clue how to belong to Christopher Watt's family. And I think she decided that it would be just easier, all things considered, to just isolate him away from his family. I think it was too complicated for her to try to deal with anybody beyond her husband and her phone. I don't think she could even handle dealing with her own children. I think that's what led to the nut meltdown. I think Cece started screaming, and I think the screams and the confusion, I think, led to Christopher Watt's wife having an absolute breakdown. Cindy Watts said she came charging toward me down the hallway, accusing Cindy Watts of attempted murder, of attempting to murder Cece. And she supposedly told her mother that there were razor blades laying all over the house. Well, I got news for you guys. If a good 911 operator would have heard those details, it would have been lights and sirens all the way with an ambulance. Star Mama says, I think SW had several different personalities. I agree. I think she had multiple personalities. And I think that if you take a closer look at a lot of those videos, then you'll be able to identify at least 3. I think she had another personality too that we didn't see on camera. And I think that personality pretty much kept her in bed for days on end. Melissa says it was clear to me she had a hard time with her girls. And think about this, Melissa. What we saw was probably what she believed was her best face forward. What we saw in those videos, she probably thought was perfectly normal and fine. Look at that Santa Claus video that we talked about a few live chats ago. She was mocking her children. They were frightened. And I think they were frightened because they were alone with her. They were frightened and upset and hysterical before Santa Claus even came into the house. I think they were frightened because their dad wasn't there. Carol says, easier to control. Bella was a mellow, scared child. Cece was energetic. She ran around, and that bothered her. No toys downstairs. I think Bella was talking, you guys. I think Bella was telling her teachers about what was going on at home. I also think that the reason that Cece had more of a free spirit than Bella was because Bella was the older child. And I think Bella took it upon herself, which the oldest child often does, or I should say the older child often does, to protect her baby sister. Look at what she asked the babysitter shortly before she was murdered. She was telling the babysitter all about how she was scared that somebody would give Cece some kind of kiwi or something, I don't know. That somebody would feed Cece some sort of food that would kill her, and she would never see Cece again. Well, where does that crap come from? Perhaps a sadistic mother who says, guess what, Bella? If somebody gives Cece kiwi, then she'll be dead and we'll never see her again. Exactly, Carol. She was scared of Cece dying. And look at the death language that their mother used. If the dog doesn't stop barking, or no, how'd she say it? She was going to strangle the dog before his barking woke up the girls, and she strangled. And then she stopped herself, and then she said, the dog. Strangle, strangle, strangle. Accusing Cindy Watts of attempting to murder Cece. Threatening Cindy Watts that the girls would never step foot in her house again. And then guess what? Just a few weeks later, Cindy learned that they never would. Spacebound said she had Bella scared to death. She did. She did. And according to Cindy Watts, Bella was scared of everything. Star Mama says, I think the teacher knew that her haircuts were a form of punishment if she talked. That's why her hair was so short until they were in North Carolina for 6 weeks. I also think that's why Bella didn't seem to have a normal vocabulary. I think she was afraid to talk. Brittany says, I think that she bragged about giving the girls cough syrup so they would go to sleep. So I'll ask the question again. Why weren't Bella and Cece removed from that home long before the tragedy? Could it be that the agencies involved could benefit from taking an honest look at the details of this case and saying, okay, guess what? Maybe it's not a good idea to develop a family plan when the victims are ages 2 and 4. Maybe it's a better idea to remove the children or to make it clear to the non-abusive parent that he damn well better seek full custody with proper protections in place, meaning supervised visits only, Maybe that would have been a better course of action than what we're being told, the family plan, with people supervising her and driving the children to daycare in the mornings. Really? Did you know we were told that the daycare center was to call the police immediately if Bella and Cece were not there at opening time? And don't you think it's interesting that the people, they're, I would say the people who are being used in this whole nightmare in the last 3 years of people claiming that they're content creators, and making terrible videos and harassing people and doxing people and calling their employers and everything. Don't you think it's interesting how many of those people have serious criminal records? How many of those people have abused children? How many of those people have drug and alcohol issues? How many of those people have mental illness issues that they themselves discuss openly, right? I mean, so this isn't just a bunch of us sitting around saying, oh, they're crazy. No, they say it themselves. And then they proceed to act like it too. Don't you think it's interesting at the caliber of people being used to try to control the narrative on the case of Christopher Watts? A bunch of child abusers? I guess you'd have to be to join in that little scam, right? Druggies, alcoholics, people with rage issues, people who don't know how to spell. Sorry, I had to throw that one in. And in the meantime, we have an opportunity to learn from this case. We have an opportunity for these social service agencies to actually study this case and learn how they can do better the next time. Law enforcement, too. Do you think that was the first time they were called to that house? I guess, you know what? I would say even caregivers, too. Maybe some caregivers aren't equipped to deal with certain patients. Maybe some illnesses aren't illnesses that should be handled or managed or monitored by caregivers who don't have specialized training. Maybe it's time for people to say, you know what? It's a foregone conclusion in many of our opinions, right? It just seems kind of obvious that she had some major mental health issues going on. And 3 years later, we're not going to pretend that she didn't. Watch the Santa Claus video if you can stomach it. She was mocking her children. And why were the kids upset before Santa Claus even came in the house? I'm telling you, my opinion, they were scared to be alone with their own mother. Dolo says, Star Mama, yes, her eyes were scary AF. It creeped me out. I'll bet the shit hit the fan when the camera was turned off on that Christmas Eve. Oh, I bet you're right. I'll bet you're right. And I'll bet the shit hit the fan when she got back from her vacation weekend. As her own father said in his police interview, she came home and confronted him. And let me tell you what I think she confronted him about. We're told it was about the restaurant receipt. I don't think so. I think she confronted him about the fact that I think she was finally catching on that at the court hearing that he was going to choose the children over her. Jamie says the Santa video is a classic example of what Christopher Watt's wife wanted, not what her kids wanted. In my opinion, the Santa video is a classic example of child abuse. Parents who know how to parent would have calmed their children. Parents who know how to parent would have said, hey, babies, what's going on? This is fun. This is Santa. This will be fun. Mommy's right here. Don't worry. And they would not have opened the door to Santa until the babies were cool with it all. Those babies were not being comforted at all. They were not being attended to at all. It's like she didn't even know that it was her responsibility to help her children. Except here's the thing, I don't think it was her responsibility. I don't think it was ever her responsibility to take care of her children. Ever. I think she lost it in her pregnancy. And there are a lot of people claiming she had a pregnancy before the pregnancy with Bella, right? Let that one sink in. I think she lost it big time in her 32nd week of pregnancy with Bella. And I highly doubt she was ever expected, ever, to take care of either Bella or Cece. Star Mama says, I think her videos driving were filmed in her driveway. That's why the girls' cheeks were so red and they were hot. I agree completely. Melissa says, I can't get past the Christmas video. It should have shown how she was with her kids. Yet people say it showed her as a good mom. WTF. I don't see anything with the Christmas video that shows her to be a good mom. I don't see anything with the Christmas video that shows her being a mother at all. Jamie says, she had a drawer labeled Cece and another Bella. They just wouldn't stay put, and she didn't have lupus. I think her room was on the main floor. I don't think she bonded with Bella and Cece. And I think people were brought into her life in order to supervise her. I think people were brought into her life in order to make sure the children were safe. And I think the morning of the tragedy, whoever it was who was on duty failed Bella and Cece. Dolo, I agree completely. She was mocking Bella, mocking her. And here's another thing. People say how she was so, inspiring and so influential and all the other crap. Do you know that at the time of the tragedy that her posts on social media had very few likes, if any? Many of her posts had 0 likes. Many of them had 2 or 3. And if you took a look at the likes at who was liking her videos, guess what? She liked her own shit. What kind of following is that? She was following herself? Or maybe she was, I don't know. Maybe one personality was following the other. Success? They didn't even own a car. They were behind on all of their bills. Where was the success? Successful at what? Parenting? The kids were both in daycare. Marriage? Her husband was drinking his coworker. Financially? She was broke. MLMs? She was her best customer. Her only customer, quite frankly, in my opinion. Star Mama says that she did not want her girls rocked. She, being Christopher Ross's wife, did not want her girls rocked, cuddled, or soothed. No one could pick them up if they cried once they were put to bed. Well, maybe she didn't know how to rock or soothe her babies. Maybe that wasn't in her vernacular. And maybe no one could pick them up if they were in bed because maybe at that point the caregivers had gone home. Maybe she couldn't pick them up. Maybe the caregivers were allowed to have the evening off. I don't know. Carol says, who puts locks on their baby's door, especially when they have asthma? No one knows when she let them out. Chris had to sell his car, and she loved it. Maybe the girls had locks on their doors to protect them from her. Jamie says, I don't believe the court date was issued before they died. Yes, it was. There were 2 court hearings on the horizon. One was for the unpaid HOA dues. The other was for an ongoing family matter. And remember, she asked Christopher Watts, would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? I think she was catching the clue that court hearing probably wasn't going to go in her favor. Ash says, Jamie, yes, she did a raffle, and at the end, she announced she was the winner. And what, all 3 people in her life went along with it and applauded her? Oh, okay. Jamie said, I mean, it was issued before they died. Star Mama says, baby wise. She said they probably cried more when she did try to hold them. Yeah, I think maybe. You know, dogs and drunks and children pretty much tell the truth, right? If there's a baby crying when you hold them, seek counseling. Because babies, dogs, and drunks pretty much tell the truth. You know how a dog can kind of sense if someone's weird? Well, babies can too. And drunks will usually say so. Ray says maybe the locks to stop CW from soothing them. I think the locks were to protect them. And again, let's get right to the issue. If there was an ongoing family matter, if there was an ongoing family plan, if those girls were about to be removed from the home, then why the hell weren't they removed sooner? Why was that family plan still in place when those girls were being taken to one specialist after another with all this BS rectal thermometer routines and familial Mediterranean fever and all that crap? Why? Who was monitoring that case? Why weren't they removed? And why? If you find out that a case that you're monitoring, if you find out that the person, the target of the case, is claiming that she's 15 weeks pregnant, but she doesn't seek prenatal care, at what point do you step up and say, okay, there's a problem here, folks? I'll ask the question again that I asked earlier. If you have a friend who's claiming she's 15 weeks pregnant and she refuses to get prenatal care, and then she's claiming she's spotting and cramping, and she refuses to get prenatal care. How long is she going to be your friend? I hope that ends your friendship. Who would want to be a friend with somebody who's 15 weeks pregnant refusing to get prenatal care? And oh my goodness, high risk pregnancies, fertility issues, lupus, fibromyalgia, celiac disease. And she refused prenatal care. Bullshit. Do you really think she was pregnant? Do you really think she was pregnant? Does anybody really know? We're told that she was. Of course, the authorities were told that she was. Do you really think she was? To me, that rates right up there with the whole BAC level. Cosmo says, I've never been 100% sure she was preggers. Just saying. When this case first came out, it wasn't when it first came out, but it was a month or two later. There were a lot of people on social media saying she wasn't pregnant, in their opinions. A lot of people. A lot of people. Thunder Before Lightning says, do you think the authorities lied about the coffin birth? They have his remains. Really? Do you think it's a coffin birth? I would say research coffin birth. And then share your opinion on whether or not you think the authorities lied about the coffin birth. Has anyone here, and you don't have to share, but just food for thought, has anyone here had a miscarriage? Have you seen what a miscarriage looks like? I think people go in for an ultrasound and they see this big picture and they think that, the 2.4 ounce mass of cells is ready to start kindergarten or something. Do you really believe there was a coffin birth? And if you do, then I would say research coffin birth and join us in our next live chat and tell us what you've learned. For those of us who have suffered a miscarriage, and nobody needs to share how far along you were or anything like that or any of the details. And I know this is something I don't want anyone to get triggered. I don't want anyone to be feeling sadness or ruffled by any of this part of the conversation. I'm not trying to minimize at all the experience. The tragedy. It is a tragedy to have a miscarriage. You're losing your baby. Think about it. If you've had a miscarriage, then you know visibly, physically, visibly what you're able to see. Do you really believe that Christopher Watt's wife had a coffin birth? I don't. Exactly, Star Mama. It looks like a heavy period. I'm sorry. That's crude, but it's the truth. It looks like a heavy period. Exactly. Christy says, yep, Mia reckons 19 weeks and no way to tell the sex of a baby. A mass of tissue mainly. Have y'all ever had a heavy period? Well, that's what a miscarriage looks like. Jamie says it depends on how preggers. Well, I think there are many of us here, Jamie, who have had a miscarriage at 15 weeks or around that time frame of the pregnancy. And Star Mama nailed it. It looks like a mass of tissue. It looks like a heavy period. Ash was 15 weeks, and it looked like a mass of bloody tissue. If you guys aren't old enough to have had a heavy period yet, it looks the same. So if you know that you're broke, if you're on disability and you've been lying to your husband from the day you met him, telling him that you're some MLM queen, if you know that you're not paying the house payment, if you know that your husband would get full custody, if you know that you're not allowed to be alone with your kids, if you know all of these things, and you know that the marriage was over a long time ago, I don't know, how motivated are you to say to your husband, guess what? We're pregnant again. And if you happen to have different personalities, and some of them are pretty delusional, I guess whether or not you had sex with your husband wouldn't factor into the equation of whether or not he would believe if you're pregnant. And I guess if you've given him 6 years of hell already, or 8 years of hell, or how many years of hell putting up with you and just trying to keep you safe and keep the children safe from you, then I guess it's good to have the camera rolling and not to pay too close of attention to the look on his face when he's looking at you like, how the hell could you be pregnant? We haven't even had sex. Jamie says the leopard dress knows. Don't you think it's interesting how she was talking to a lawyer at the restaurant all about divorce and answering in the affirmative when he asked if she was going to get a divorce? And don't you think it's interesting that the first week in July, she told a hairdresser, a hairstylist, that she was getting divorced and looking forward to being single again? Don't you think all that's interesting if she was pregnant? Don't you think the look on his face was pretty telling in that video? Would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? Every time I try to talk to him about us, he tells me that he's not going to lose the girls. Maybe their conversations were about the upcoming court hearing. What are you going to say, Chris? What are you going to do, Chris? You better not leave me, Chris. What are you doing, Chris? What if they say I can't live here at the house, Chris? What are you going to do? What if he told her that he was choosing the children over her? What if whatever happened the morning of the tragedy actually happened because she was facing the possibility of having to leave her own home and her own fantasy behind? What if she was about to lose what, in my opinion, was her bedroom, the main floor little bedroom where she had her vision board and her mirror and her shoes? Do you guys remember when we talked about those shoes before? How a lot of us commented that they just looked weird? Like, those were not nice shoes. They looked like they came from a Goodwill or a thrift shop or whatever, a secondhand store. They looked out of style, out of date. They looked nasty. They looked used. and she wore her flip-flops all the time. Yet she had a shoe wall? Maybe those shoes were what she wore when she was in a different mood. Or maybe she played dress up during the day in her little room. Beverly says, I know she had odd parenting skills. I don't think she had any parenting skills. I don't think they were odd. I don't think she had any. Beverly says, but is this all speculation? Is there any true facts? That would be, are there any true facts? And then she's telling us she is not a troll. Well, Beverly, what part of this case discussion taking place on any channel at all, is providing facts? What part of any channel's discussion on the case of Christopher Watts is not purely speculation? Don't you love the channels that say, we only have the facts here, only have the facts? Right? Until you hear them stating their opinions over and over again. So evidently the facts are whatever people want to say there on any particular day. Cosmo says the rich and famous have closets like that with racks of shoes. But look at those shoes. They're ugly. Ugly. They're icky. They're icky shoes. If you're going to have a wall of shoes, you're going to have some nice ones there somewhere. Those shoes were not nice. I agree, Judy. Odd parenting? She had no parenting skills going on. Carol says she would have went back home to mommy and daddy's house and the neighbors and family members would find out she lost custody of her kids. She couldn't have that because she is... Woman, hear me roar. Oh, she was just bossy, Carol. She was just bossy. She wasn't abusive. She was just bossy. But boy, oh boy, if she was a man, watch out, world. Sharon says all the tastes are different, da-da-da. No. Take a closer look at the shoe, Sharon. Take a closer look. They're ratty-tatty. They're ugly ratty-tatty. They're not nice. They're just not nice. And I'm not saying that, like, I don't care about any style of shoe. I'm saying they were ratty-tatty, old, icky, ugh. They look like they came from the Goodwill. And quite frankly, I think the Goodwill probably has nicer shoes than that shoe wall. Zoom in on the pictures, MJ. Zoom in. Zoom in. Zoom in on the pictures. They're ugly. I'm not talking the style of the shoe even. Take a look at how ratty they are. Which pretty face, Jamie? Which one? Exactly, Judy. Judy nailed it. Hooker shoes. That's what they look like. Ratty, tatty, hooker shoes. Oh my gosh. I was going to say it, but I wasn't going to say it. So I'm glad you said it. Three of a Kind says, the majority of what we and MM talk about here comes from SW's own catalog of video posts, texts, and social media. So yes, majority is fact. Good point, Three of a Kind. Thank you. And okay, I'm sure that all of us have a few pair of hooker shoes. Okay, whatever. As we get older, the hooker shoes are just not comfortable. You know, there are some hooker shoes that are fine. But those shoes were ratty, as if she wore them a lot, and she didn't. I think she went to the thrift shops. I really do. I think that's what she did. I think she went to the thrift shops. Tennyson, exactly. Nobody knows for sure, Beverly, but Miss Mensa has a theory based on very common sense knowledge and what was observed. Exactly. When you see two children who are losing their shit before Santa Claus even comes into the house, it makes you wonder, why were they losing their shit? And I don't mean that literally, although that did seem to be an issue that Christopher Watt's wife liked to focus on from time to time. Why were they so upset? In my opinion, they were upset because they were alone with their mother. They wanted to know where their father was. They were told that he was up in the upstairs bathroom. They wanted their father. Brooks says, SW always said, live your dream, like I am. What a joke. My dream is not to become a desperate MLMer. I think she was living in dream world. Beverly says, how do you know she couldn't be done with the kids? Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. How do you know she couldn't be alone with the kids? I did see the Santa one. It hurt my heart. Aw. How do I know she couldn't be alone with the kids? I don't know she couldn't be alone with the kids. But research the case, Beverly. Research the case, and then be aware that there are many people calling and emailing and posting claiming that there was an ongoing open CPS case that restricted her from being able to be alone with the kids. This is what we're being told, that she wasn't allowed to be alone with the kids, that she wasn't allowed to drive the children anywhere, that she wasn't allowed to take the children to any doctor or for any medical care, and that she was not allowed to travel with the children. Now, research the case, given that information that we've been told, and everything seems to fit, doesn't it? Did she ever fly alone with her kids? No. Did she ever go anywhere alone with her kids? Not that we can tell. Did she sit on her duff all day at home while her husband was at work and the kids were both in daycare full time? Yeah. Did she have a whole lot of people in her world who were caregivers? Yeah. Did her videos kind of not exactly make any sense most of the time? Yeah. And yes, remember in Discovery. Okay, think about Discovery. Why would a social worker from North Carolina be calling the police in Colorado saying, please call me? Why did Bella have the look of fear in her eyes? Lisa says the obvious here. Thank you, Lisa. Did she pick her kids up from daycare? No. Why not? She was sitting on her duff all day. She had the car that she claimed she earned sitting right in the driveway. Why didn't she pick up her own kids from daycare? Oh, wait, she didn't earn the car, did she? No, that was a car that was in Christopher Watt's name. It was a leased vehicle in Christopher Watt's name. Well, she sat on her duff all day and he worked all day. And the kids were in daycare all day. I guess she was too busy doing nothing to run up to the daycare center to get her kids. But wait, what if she wasn't allowed to? Yes, Three of a Kind. That blog is an excellent blog and it puts everything, it just seems to put all the puzzle pieces in really good order. I think the fact alone that Christopher Watts was the one who drove home, grabbed the Lexus, drove up to the daycare center, picked up the kids, speaks volumes. Beverly says, why would Chris take the blame? I don't know. Why would he stay married to her for as long as he did? Sharon says, I think because he loved her. I don't think so. I think he stayed because he was afraid for his kids' safety. Good point, Lisa, about making friends in the neighborhood. And yet some of the neighbors didn't even recognize Christopher Watt's wife. Sharon says, I think he's still protecting her to this day. I think he might still be protecting the secrets. Sharon says, I think he will always love her. I don't think he ever did. I think he loved the image that she projected. I think by the time she was 32 weeks along in the pregnancy with Bella, he realized what he was in for. Beverly, go ahead and Google it. You'll find it. Lisa says, Google it, Beverly. I don't know. Is that love? I don't think so. I think he loved who he thought she was, but I think when she was pregnant with Bella, he found out what was really going on. And I think beyond that point, I think he loved his children and wanted to protect them. And I think that he, for some odd reason, didn't think that they would be safe if he divorced her. I think that he felt that he was just going to keep on trying to keep everything status quo to try to keep the children safe. MJ says, have you sent the letter to CW? No, MJ, I haven't. I actually struggled with that because a couple of reasons. One is talking about it in the live chat. Of course, all the scumbag attackers are like, oh, MM's going to send him a letter. And they have so many people who are so quick to, make up bullshit lies that I thought, if I do that, they're just going to make up a whole bunch of weird letters and go, oh, here's a letter from MM. And, plus I had a really busy week and I just thought, yeah. Jamie says, has Cindy contacted you lately? It depends what you mean with lately. We've had some email correspondence. And as I've explained in the past with that whole thing, when they had an actual lawyer offering to help pro bono, and they chose instead to listen to what we're told by KK was the daughter, Christopher Watt's sister, contacting her immediately within 24 hours, contacting her and saying, okay, let's do it, as far as that ridiculous YouTube channel. That's when I walked. And Cindy knows exactly how I feel. I'm very open and honest with her about exactly how I feel about that. They had an opportunity to help their son. And instead, it looks to me like their daughter didn't want that to happen. Judy says, right on, Miss Mensa. Well, you guys, I think what's it been, 2 hours? Let's go ahead and call it a night. I'll try to do another live chat tomorrow. The weekends are a lot better for me than during the week, obviously. So we might hop on tomorrow. If so, I hope you guys join us. If not, then I'll try midweek. But you guys know me. It'll be probably next Friday or Saturday. So I'm glad all of you came, and we had a pretty lively discussion tonight, didn't we? Check out Patreon if you want. I don't know, if you need some help getting to sleep at night. There's some new uploads this week on Patreon. We have different tiers too. Like, you don't have to join the whole thing. We have $3 tiers, $5 tiers. I don't know what tiers. They're like 6 or 7 of them on different cases. So check it out if you're so inclined. Everybody have a super safe and happy and healthy week. Get lots done. And I want you all to know that you are loved and appreciated. Seriously, I'm really glad you guys showed up. And we were able to share our opinions on the case of Christopher Watts, a.k.a. the case from hell. MJ says, okay, God bless, good night. Jamie says, ciao. And Miss Mensa says, good night, John Boy. Tennyson says, bye. Spacebound says, good vibes. Sharon says, night, MM. Carol says, I just ripped my apartment apart. Fall cleaning. I know, isn't it great when the sun's shining? Jamie says, good night. It looks like Star Mama already tucked in. If you're still on, Star Mama, good night. I'm glad you came. Talk to y'all soon. Good night.